Hello beautiful people, welcome to your astrological forecast for next week. I'm recording this ahead of time under the influence of Pluto trine to Sun. However, you're probably watching this on Friday or over the weekend, so that's where I'm going to start and we're going to take it from there. So as we all know, we just experienced the full moon in Sagittarius. Full moon, of course, is the midway point to the moon that got seeded in December 2023, and this was the last full moon to the new moon that got seeded in 2023, because as of now, the next one, which will be the full moon in Capricorn, the new moon to this one already happened in 2024. So on Thursday the 23rd was a very busy day because of course we had the Venus conjunct to Jupiter, Venus sextile to Neptune, Venus moved into the sign of Gemini, and Jupiter made a sextile to Neptune as well. Then Friday we are still entering into the weekend with moon in the sign of Sagittarius, which is when moon will remain until Saturday. On Saturday, moon will move into the sign of Capricorn. However, before that takes place, Venus is going to trine Pluto. So we already had Sun trine in Pluto. Now Venus, as of Thursday, later on Thursday the 23rd, Venus is in the sign of Gemini, and then first aspect Venus will make from the sign of Gemini will be her trine to Pluto. And this is obviously building up on the cycle that began between the two of them in February 17th, and that's when they both had their first conjunction in the sign of Aquarius for the upcoming 20 years. So as I already mentioned, on Saturday the 25th, moon will move into the cardinal sign of Capricorn, which is all about authority and definition of our reality, and subsequently Jupiter will move into the sign of Gemini. For some of us, like myself here in Europe, it will be already on Saturday the 26th. Jupiter will move into the sign of Gemini, where Jupiter will remain until June 2025. So then on Sunday the 26th, Mars will square Vesta, and that's pretty much the only thing. Of course, moon does what she always does. Actually, moon is going to square the nodes on Saturday the 26th from the sign of Capricorn, and then on Monday the 27th, moon will move into the sign of Aquarius, and after that Mercury will make a sextile to Saturn. This is a first sextile since their conjunction, which took place on February 28th. We might remember that on the same day Mercury conjunct Sun, Mercury conjunct Saturn, and also Sun conjunct Saturn. It was a busy day, that 28th of February, which was right after the full moon in Virgo, by the way, which took place on 24/2/2024. Okay, so that is Monday the 27th. Mercury is making a sextile to Saturn. Mercury is in Taurus, Saturn is in Pisces. On Tuesday, moon is transiting through the sign of Aquarius. On Wednesday the 29th, this is another busy day. I mean, most of the aspects are actually happening between the goddesses, between the asteroids. However, we are also experiencing Mars making a conjunction to Chiron. So this is closing a cycle that began between the two of them in 2022. Because Mars is conjuncting everything this year, and that's closing the cycles that began between Mars and the planets in 2022, because Mars has a 2-year orbit. So Mars conjuncting Chiron, yes, the exact conjunction between Mars and Chiron, the last one before this one, took place on June 15th, 2022, and on June 14th we had a full moon in Sagittarius, interestingly enough, and there is another mention of full moon in Sagittarius. So subsequently, after that, moon will move into the sign of Pisces on Wednesday the 29th or Thursday the 30th, depends where you are in the world. And also on late night of Thursday the 30th, or for majority people it will be already Friday the 31st, Mercury will make a conjunction to Uranus, and this is in the sign of Taurus, of course. And the last time they two had a conjunction was on June 4th, 2023, which was again full moon in Sagittarius. Actually, the full moon in Sagittarius in 2023 took place on June the 3rd. So we are having Mars conjuncting Chiron, whereas the last time they conjunct was full moon in Sagittarius 2022. Then we are having Mercury conjuncting Uranus. The last time they conjunct was full moon in Sagittarius 2023. And now we just had full moon in Sagittarius 2024 on May. Are we still in May? Yes, May 23rd. Okay, so speaking of which, on what is it, Friday? Yes, Friday or Saturday, depending where you are in the world. So this for most people actually is going to be June the 1st. Moon will move into the sign of Aries, which represents the beginning of the new cycle, a new direction, of course. And we know that with this illumination of this Sagittarius, which is the storyteller, which is the storyline that we are experiencing here in this 3D reality, in our human embodiment of the spirit, everything is changing, because we already had Mars conjuncting North Node, and this week Mars is conjuncting Chiron, so it's really pushing us to step into the unknown, because as we know, Chiron is the wounded healer, the collective wounded healer. So we are entering into the weekend with Moon in the sign of Aries. And then on June the 1st, which is the new month, Saturday, we are again just experiencing aspects between planets and asteroids. Venus will square Juno and Vesta will square Chiron, actually. And then on Sunday, June the 2nd, Jupiter will make a trine to Pluto. So we already had Sun, we already had Venus, and now Jupiter in the sign of Gemini. This is again the first aspect Jupiter is making from the sign of Gemini, and it is the trine to Pluto. Pluto is still retrograde on 1 degree 53 minutes. And subsequently, right after that, which again for some of us will be already on Monday the 3rd, Mercury will make a sextile to Neptune. And the last conjunction between Mercury and Neptune happened on March the 8th, which was right before Mercury moved into the sign of Aries, which took place on March the 9th. And then we had on March 10th, the new moon in Pisces. So this all already took place this year. So for some people, very few, but people living on the Pacific coast, Moon will enter into the sign of Taurus, or still on Sunday the 2nd. However, for the rest of us, Moon will move into the sign of Taurus on Monday the 3rd. And then Monday the 3rd will be actually a very busy day, because we will have Mercury moving into the sign of his rulership, into the sign of Gemini. And also, again, for some people it will be June the 3rd, for some people it will be June the 4th. And this is, of course, for the next conversation. Sun will make a sextile to North Node and trine to South Node, and also Venus will make a sextile to North Node and trine to South Node. But like I said, this is something that is going to be for the next conversation. In this conversation, we are going to predominantly be focusing on all these positive aspects that are happening between the planets in the sign of Gemini and Pluto. And currently, as I already mentioned, Pluto is retrograde. So Pluto is making us to reevaluate and recalibrate to the new energy that we've been experiencing since Pluto was in the sign of Aquarius, which for the first time we experienced already last year in 2023. And now Pluto entered Aquarius for the second time on January the 20th, right after his last conjunction with Sun in the sign of Capricorn in our lifetime, which took place on the same day. And then Pluto just recently, or I believe it was on the May 2nd, stationed retrograde, and Pluto will remain retrograde until October 11th. So during this period of time, we have the opportunity to adjust to this new energy of the Aquarius, of the Aquarian age. And now with all the planets transiting through the sign of Gemini, which is the sign of multidimensionality, is the sign of choice, is the sign of connecting with the reality through multiplicity of lenses, right? Because nothing is just black and white, nothing is set in a stone. This is a Gemini season now, so it's a mutable season. Everything is changing, and that's why new ideas, new inspirations are coming, especially as of May 25th, when Jupiter is entering into the sign of Gemini himself. And as we know, Jupiter expands everything it touches. So Jupiter in the sign of Gemini, and this is all under influence of also Mercury, right? Mercury is going to make Mercury, as the ruler of Gemini, is going to be making a conjunction to Uranus only a few days after Jupiter moves into the sign of Gemini. Jupiter moves into the sign of Gemini Saturday, Sunday, depends where you are in the world, once again. And then Mercury will make a conjunction to Uranus, which Mercury is the ruler of Jupiter as of the 25th. And Uranus is the ruler of Pluto in Aquarius, retrograde. So, and Jupiter is making a trine to Pluto at the end of the week on the 2nd. So this is all supporting us in thinking beyond, looking beyond, going beyond everywhere we've ever been before. And this Mercury Uranus conjunction that's going to be taking place right before we shift into a new month, technically, and right before moon moves into the sign of Aries, right, this is definitely preparing us in like, I really feel that the way we starting to comprehend and perceive reality and interact with reality is massively and radically changing. Of course, a lot of that is to do what's going on around us in the world, which is pushing us in adopting a new approach to the way we interact with the reality outside of us, and also then interacting with the reality that's happening inside of us. But also is this energies, all these activations, all these portals that are streaming through these new energies, that is doing something to us. I mean, all these electromagnetic storms and solar flares and all these things, this has impact because we are electromagnetic, right? We are run on electricity. Our body, it's like our nervous system and our brain, our heart is electromagnetic. So we are all being impacted, even though all these energies are not necessarily being seen by the naked eye. But that's also the Aquarius. We can't see electricity as per se. We can't see internet, and we know it's all around us, or Bluetooth. And this is it. We're going to start perceiving, I feel, more of that which we can't see, and start interacting and connecting with this. And this is going to be the new way of experiencing reality that is going to help us feel more individuated, more authentic, more being truly ourselves. So we won't need to go seeking everything, all the information and support and guidance outside of us, but it will be actually coming through our direct connection to this which we cannot see. So anyway, like I mentioned, this is really a busy week. I mean, we are entering it with the moon in the sign of, well, still technically in the sign of Capricorn, which is all about new direction, but then moon is moving into the sign of Aquarius still on Monday the 27th, and this is going to have an impact. Moon in a sign of Aquarius, it's moon that is seeking liberation and freedom and sovereignty, and wanting to free to express ourselves. And as I mentioned, on the same day, on Monday, Mercury will make a sextile to Saturn, and Mercury conjuncted Saturn, of course, in Pisces season. And this was helping us to release, because as I kept mentioning before, Mercury had his last retrograde in 2023, started in the sign of Sagittarius, then gone back into the sign of it started in the sign of Capricorn, gone back into the sign of Sagittarius, and then gone back into Capricorn. And then, of course, after that, Mercury moved into the sign of Aquarius and then into the sign of Pisces, which is when Mercury had a conjunction with Saturn. And Mercury as the archetype of identifying with external reality, and Saturn as the archetype that makes the reality tangible, so we can interact with it. When these two had a conjunction after that last retrograde Mercury completed on January 1st, in the sign of Sagittarius, we started releasing, we started understanding what out of these stories are actually not going to be taking us any further, because of course in December 2023 we seeded this new story, this new direction that we will be moving into, but it is yet to be seen, it is yet to be written, it is yet to be decided what this is, because this was still under the influence of Jupiter coming into the conjunction with Uranus in December 2023. Jupiter was still actually retrograde. Jupiter station direct at the end of December 2023. I believe it was 29th, 30th, it was the last days of December, I remember. So we were still having to go over certain things with regards to Taurus topic, which is again, what are the stories that we tell ourselves? We were reevaluating, we were learning, we were studying ourselves. And now recently in April 2024, we had this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. Now everything is in a new phase. For this full moon in Sagittarius, both Venus and Jupiter, they conjuncted right before the full moon, and they were on 29 degrees, and they were having a sextile from Neptune, and also they were being supported by Pluto. Like everything is pointing us into this new direction, this 29 degrees, and then this new moon happened on 2 degrees, so late degrees, early degrees. Jupiter is the ruler of the full moon, was indicating something is closing for us while something new is beginning, but it was an opposition, which is something that requires a balance, and also is Gemini. It's saying, well, we all have a choice how we're going to establish this balance, what direction are we going to choose. Like I said, we are ending and beginning the week with moon in a sign of Capricorn, which is all about direction, but a new definition. Capricorn is the last one of the cardinal signs, so it's the self-mastery. It's really about stepping into our authority to be able to decide and define which direction are we choosing for ourselves, and a lot of things are becoming illuminated with this full moon in Sagittarius, because now we see more about the story that began in January, December, but it's even more than that, because these are cycles within the cycles, especially with this Neptune being on 29 degrees Pisces at the moment, and Saturn closing to Neptune. They're not going to conjunct in the sign of Pisces, but still they are in a closing phase conjunction in the sign of Pisces at the moment, even though there is not an exact conjunction, they are within the degree orb. So the reality, as we know, and as we kept talking about, that this reality is closing up, it's ending. Venus was on 29 degrees, Jupiter was on 29 degrees, Venus moving to the sign of Gemini, which is again all about finding these new options, finding these new ways of perceiving the reality and connecting with reality, identifying things in a new way, identifying how we see ourselves and others in the new way. How do we want to interact with life and world around us in a new way? Because Jupiter, as of May 25th, moved into the sign of Gemini. Of course, by the time I'm recording this, that hasn't happened yet, but still, Jupiter is moving into the sign of Gemini on Saturday the 25th or 26th, depending where you are in the world, where Jupiter will remain until June 2025. And during this period of time, Jupiter is going to expand the way we perceive reality. And, again, it's about what is Jupiter starting with, because the way we perceive reality, if we look at it from a negative lens, doom and gloom, and we focus just on one polarity, then that's what Jupiter will expand. Jupiter is going to expand anything it touches. Jupiter doesn't, these planets, they are not like polarizing, like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna expand this one thing and not the other thing. It's about, well, whatever we give it to work with, that's what Jupiter is gonna expand. But being in a sign of Gemini, this is a beautiful opportunity to start questioning all the stories, all the belief system, everything that brought us to this moment, because we know that Jupiter was on 29 degrees during the time of the full moon in Sagittarius. Jupiter was the ruler of 29 degrees, sextile by Neptune from 29 degrees. This is all supporting us in now, because it was the first sextile, Neptune and Venus, and Neptune and Jupiter, first sextile Taurus flavor. So this is all supporting us in really learning to connect with ourselves. This is all the Taurus, but the old way of Taurus, the 29 degrees, the old story, Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, now is a new phase. That old story is fractured. The old story is now outdated. It doesn't work anymore. So the way we're going to create a new direction, a new story, a new way of identifying with reality and connecting with, a new way to connect with other people, have a conversation and talk about different things. It all starts from within, is this Taurus, but Taurus 2.0, Taurus in a new way. Venus now is in a sign of Gemini. She's saying that we are all multidimensional, and also it's about us understanding that we have an access to information from all these different lifetimes and incarnations, and all the stuff that our ancestors experience, and all the stuff that is written and archived in the Akash. We all have access to everything. Is just a matter of frequency. Are we a frequential match to connect with that information? And this is why everything traveling through Gemini, as soon as they enter Gemini, the first aspect each planet is making is a trine to Pluto, and Pluto currently is retrograde, because it's helping us to integrate and recalibrate to this new frequency of understanding that the reality we are like at the early stages of, is very different from the reality we were experiencing before. So literally everything that before was set in a stone and taken as this is the Holy Grail, this is how it is, because this is how it always was. None of that is the case anymore, because with the Gemini, it's all about these different timelines, different options, different choices, different ways of looking at anything. And now Jupiter is in the sign of Gemini. And like I said, let me just get my notes right. In the same week, and this is right after, if we go chronologically, Mercury, of course, sextile Saturn at the beginning of the week. So this is a first sextile, Taurus flavor. No, we know what no longer holds a meaning, what we have the totality of understanding of. The old stories, they no longer work. They are not going to take us any further if we try to apply them into the reality we are experiencing at the moment, because we are living in a different world. We are living in a different reality. We are different. Human race has evolved, it moved on since 1700 or something, and every time there is a next generation, they hold the tools to upgrade and improve that which came before, right? Because that's how it works. That's how evolution go. And then, like I said, in a midweek, we have the Mars conjunct Chiron. So Mars is resetting his cycle with Chiron as well. And as I said the last time, Mars conjunct Chiron, and the last time Mercury conjunct Uranus was full moon in Sagittarius as well, 2022, and full moon in Sagittarius 2023. So we have all these energies that are coming around to show us, because full moon in Sagittarius, the stories, again, full moon in Sagittarius now, illumination of the story, illumination of the belief system. This is all feedback mechanism. It's the midway point. So now we can decide, okay, which way do we want to go? Because we still have another half of the cycle until the cycle will end. In this case, December 1st, 2024 is when we're going to have the next new moon in Sagittarius. And as I already mentioned in my previous video, where I was talking about the full moon in Sagittarius more in depth, during the next new moon in Sagittarius, Pluto is back in Aquarius, but to stay. During the last new moon in Sagittarius, Pluto was still in Capricorn. During this full moon in Sagittarius, Pluto is in Aquarius but retrograde. Next time we have a Sagittarius new moon in December 2024, Pluto is back in Aquarius, but this is post Capricorn retrograde last time. This is post eclipse season. This is post all of this, right? And as I mentioned, Mars, as the ruler of the North Node, will be making an opposition to Pluto from sign of Cancer, from the sign of Leo, and then from the sign of Cancer again. There will be all these opposition going on at the end of this year and beginning of 2025. So it's all about balance. Full moon is all about balance. What is out of balance? And we know, resolution node is the south node, and Venus now is in Gemini. She's saying we need to look at things differently. We need to consider different options. We need to tap into our multidimensional essence and understand that nobody is better than you. Nobody has more wisdom than you, because all of this is available for everyone to reach into, into everything that is, which is the source, and connect with this. The question is like, are we in the right frequency to connect with that which we seek? And that is the trine to Pluto. Now retrograde in the sign of Aquarius, Sun making a trine, Venus making a trine, and at the end of the week Jupiter will be making a trine to Pluto. First aspect each planet is making when entering Gemini. This is supporting us in this going forward, in this Aquarius age. However, in evolutionary astrology, the trine just means that yes, this is supporting us on our evolution. This is something that we are ready for and we signed up for on a soul level, but it doesn't mean it's easy. It doesn't mean it's easy because Mercury is in Taurus. Mercury is in Taurus, it's a fixed sign, right? I mean, until June the 3rd, right? But at the time when these trines are happening, even Jupiter trine to Pluto, Mercury still is in the sign of Taurus. But actually on that day, Mercury will be on 29 degrees, right? Yes, Mercury is on 29 degrees, exactly, because Jupiter is making a trine to Pluto, and right after that, Mercury is making a sextile to Neptune. We are starting the week with Mercury making a sextile to Saturn, first sextile, Taurus, right? And Saturn is the old structure of reality because that is dissolving now, is in Pisces, is maxed out, it's totaled, right? And then Mercury is making a sextile to Neptune in Pisces at the end of the week, which is, again, it's supporting us. What is it supporting us in? Connecting with the spirit, connecting with our multidimensionality, because what is Neptune? Neptune is the source. Neptune is everything there is, ever was and will be, right? Is the everything, is the everything, right? And that's where things come to end, and when the things come to begin is the void, in a sense. It's the ocean, right? It's undefinable. It has no beginning and no end, right? So yes, and like I said, after that, Moon will move into the sign of Taurus, and after that, Mercury will move into the sign of Gemini. And that will be a preparation for the new moon in Gemini, with Mercury in the sign of Gemini. So Mercury will be in a sign of his rulership for the new moon in Gemini, which is very powerful. And we have the full moon in Gemini the middle of December, because yeah, that will be the last full moon of this year, because everything is going to correct itself now in summer, because we have the 2 full moons in Capricorn. So then it's going to be okay again. It's going to be right. It's going to be right again. We're going to have new moon, full moon, new moon, full moon. Not like now, full moon, new moon. So we're going to actually end this year, 2024, with the last full moon being full moon in Gemini. Like the last moon will be the new moon in Capricorn, but the last full moon will be a new moon in Gemini, whereas last year the last full moon was the full moon in Cancer. Yes, it was the full moon in Cancer, and the last new moon was the new moon in Sagittarius. So this is very interesting. Yes, this is very interesting. We had the last new moon of last year was the mutable new moon, and the full moon was the cardinal full moon, and this year it switches. The last full moon is going to be mutable. So, illumination with regards to, well, there are plenty of choices to choose from. Nothing is set in a stone, but the new moon will be the cardinal new moon, which will be the Capricorn new moon. This is how we will end 2024. And Capricorn, as I said, is associated, well, because of Saturn as the ruler, it's associated with this year, number 8, because it's a number associated with Saturn. And that takes us to the card strength, which is, Leo energy, this solar plexus, this strength, this resiliency, this stepping into your power, stepping into your authority. And also, I know I keep jumping back and forth, but also with this Mars conjuncting Chiron, this is a push towards this unknown, like ready or not. Mars already conjuncted North Node, things got reset, and now Mars is conjuncting Chiron. It's gonna poke us when it hurts, so that's why even like with this Mercury-Uranus conjunction that is happening the day later on Thursday the 30th or Friday the 31st, depending where you are in the world, this is connected, because Mercury conjuncting Mercury conjuncting Uranus in Taurus is inviting us to feel the feels, feel these things that got frozen in time, because Uranus, yes, it is the liberation, but the liberation through allowing that which is frozen in time, trauma, whether it's our ancestral or collective, to thaw, right, to melt, and to be able to move again. Like a water, to be able to flow, because it's all about these emotions, and that takes you back to Neptune, source, right? Cancer, Scorpio and Pisces are all water sign. They're all connected. So we have all this emotion, all this intuition, all these feelings, Cancer, where we feel unsafe and threatened, and then Scorpio goes like, okay, let's investigate, let's find out what it is that is making us feel this way, let's dig deep to face our fear, and then through that may become resilient, and become powerful, become strong, become self-assured and all that, because of course Scorpio then comes in opposition with Taurus, which is this trust in yourself. But Scorpio then moves you back to the Pisces, by the water element, and we need to allow for the flood, for the water to flow, for the energy to flow. So with this Mercury-Uranus conjunction that's happening on Thursday or Friday, depending where you are, just before Moon moves into the sign of Aries. So at this time Moon is still in the sign of Pisces. Isn't that interesting? Yes, Moon is still in the sign of Pisces, so we will be very sensitive. We will be very sensitive, because we have this week where, we have all these, aspects like Mercury sextile to Saturn. Saturn is in Pisces, which is this totality of understanding of that which came before. Some of it is, good, and some of it is not so comfortable anymore, right? Because Saturn is the structure of reality. And this is like literally the whole week, with the Moon being in Aquarius at the beginning of the week. This is what we build in towards. It's literally this energy of well, we all want to be free and sovereign and do what we want and, be free to be ourselves. But in order to step into that, we need to face that which is preventing us from being that. And it's connected to this Jupiter, connected to this story, to these stories that are frozen in our body, in our somatic, in our DNA, in our body, the muscle memory, body remembers, so that's why it's all this Uranus in Taurus. We are being fractured, we are being brought out of that of that stuckness, of that point of being frozen. So through all these triggers and all these situations, we are being poked, so this energy can start flowing again, so it can come to the surface, so we can look at it, we can deal with it, and then we can let it go, right? So it's all this, like, this is so fascinating, seriously, because we have the moon in Aquarius at the beginning of the week, which is telling us, like, it goes from Capricorn into Aquarius. In order to become free, we need to become a Capricorn, we need to take responsibility. And then is this Mercury sextile to Saturn, like I already said, like, yes, now we are identifying, like, does this work for me? Does this still supporting me? Does this allowing me to have my needs met? Or is it part of the old structure that, told us that we're not good enough, and, we cannot take care of ourselves, and we need to externalize our power to the external authority? But now the authority is in Pisces. So the authority is the source, authority is the spirit, it's your higher self, in communion with you, it's not someone external of you. And then, like I said, midweek, we are having this Mars conjunct and Chiron. So again, this pokes us where it hurts. It's saying we need to face these things that make us feel wounded and preventing us from stepping into this new direction. What is it, and that's why a lot of, especially after this Sagittarius full moon, a lot of things became illuminated with regards to these stories. Jupiter, Venus, 29 degrees of Taurus, still in conjunction with Uranus, new phase, but sextile by Neptune, trine by Pluto retrograde. Even though it's out of sign, it's still a trine, right? And yeah, the exact trine, like I said, is happening this week. But still, this is all active, this is all valid. There is no coincidence why it happened that way, why they were still in Taurus. Because there are so many things that are within us that needs to be melted, found, right? Like ice, it needs to melt so the water can flood again, so it can flow again, so there is a movement. So it's not frozen like ice, it's not frozen, but it's flowing like water. So that's why with this Mars conjuncting Chiron subsequently, and that is still with Moon being a sign of Aquarius, we might be experiencing situation or circumstances that might be coming to our consciousness that are not comfortable, that are actually showing us exactly, oh, this is the reason why I feel stuck. This is the reason why I feel, afraid or disempowered. And like I said, a day after, Mercury is conjunct in Uranus, so there could be some download, some unexpected things that come to our consciousness, because this is Taurus, it's again body, it's again body, like how do we feel, what is our body telling us, and it's again something to do with what is frozen in time. In many cases it's not even yours, it might not even be your experience or your memory, but it doesn't matter, because every next generation is being passed on the baton. The previous generation pass it on to us and say, okay, here are the gifts, here are the lessons, here is the wisdom, and now use it to transmute this energy, to evolve this energy, and that's where we at. So it is our responsibility, by us coming to this earth and agreeing to get this body as an instrument for experiencing life and working on what we came to work on a soul level individually, and also having an experience, enjoying what is there to enjoy on planet Earth, this beautiful, rich planet of all these experiences we can be having, but at the same time to work alongside with other soul to co-create this evolution on this planet, and it's all happening simultaneously. This is the Gemini. Nothing is just happening on its own in separation. It's all happening at the same time. So so this Mercury making a conjunction to Uranus could potentially bring some things for us to look at that are frozen in our body, that will be coming to the surface. There might be a lot of emotions, like This is, yeah, with the moon being in Pisces, there could be a lot of flood of emotions coming up, things in our body that we cannot even understand, like, why do I feel this way, why do I feel overwhelmed, what is this that is coming out that I don't even know what it is, or where is it coming from? And it's all this, we need to allow it to flow. We need to allow it to flow, because then Mercury is moving into Gemini, and then we can start identifying this in a different way. But at this stage, Mercury is still in the sign of Taurus. This is end of the week, Thursday, Friday, like, I know I keep jumping here. And after that, moon will move into the sign of Aries on Friday night, Saturday morning. And yeah, and then, like I said, during the weekend on Sunday, we will have the Jupiter trine to Pluto. Venus already made a trine to Pluto, and like I said, Sun also made a trine to Pluto, and now is this Jupiter making a trine to Pluto. And this is again, if you want to go back into the past, this is a trine to the conjunction, a first trine to the conjunction that started in between Jupiter and Pluto. They had a conjunction in 2020. We remember also Saturn had a conjunction in 2020 to Pluto. We know what happened back then. That was all in a sign of Capricorn. So actually Pluto and Jupiter had 3 conjunctions in 2020. So this is what we evolve in, because it's all cycles within cycles within cycles. So now Jupiter is making a conjunction to Pluto. We know already Sun and Venus had a conjunction with Pluto, but that all happened this year. Yes, for some it was still in a Capricorn. For Venus it was already in the sign of Aquarius on February 17th. But Jupiter last had a conjunction with Pluto in 2020, because Jupiter has a 12-year orbit. 12, well, actually more than that, like 13-14-year-old orbit. So the last conjunction between Jupiter and Pluto, well, there were 3 of them. So the first one of the 3 happened on April 5th, 2020, and on April 8th, 2020, there was a full moon in Libra, which actually the Jupiter and Pluto conjunction was squaring. Jupiter-Uranus conjunction was at the time of the full moon in Libra on April 8th, 2020, and we know this year, April 8th, was also our lovely eclipse, the one in Aries that happened in a new phase conjunction with North Node. So at the time when Jupiter and Pluto conjuncted first time, on April 8th, 2020, they were actually conjunct in Saturn. Jupiter was in a closing phase to Saturn, because Saturn already was on 1 degree of Aquarius. But all of those, well, Saturn by the conjunction, but, Pluto and Jupiter were making a square to the moon. They were making a square to the full moon in Libra. And Venus at the time was in Gemini. It was saying, well, this was at the late stages of Capricorn transit of Pluto, Jupiter, both in Capricorn. That conjunction took place in April 2020. So it was saying, okay, well, this story needs to be redefined, because there is no balance. Venus is in Gemini. Venus was straight away indicating that we need to, and actually Venus was making a trine to Saturn. Yes, Venus was making a trine to Saturn as a ruler of Pluto at the time, of course. And this was indicating that we need to look at things differently. We need to connect with things differently. We need to tap into our multidimensionality. And Mars was actually conjunct Saturn as the current ruler of North Node. And Mars was in Aquarius. Mars was in Aquarius, saying we have to go beyond. Mars is how Pluto acts consciously. We have to go beyond. And the nodes at the time were still in Cancer Capricorn. So the North Node was in Cancer, which is about, building a new sense of who we are, new sense of identity. But like I said, there was a full moon in Libra, so moon was in Libra, and it was squared by Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn, and this all was like in a one conjunction melee, so that was created a conflict. It said that the old structure of reality, with Saturn already being Aquarius at this point, was saying that, well, we need to update it, So this is where we had the conjunction between Pluto and Jupiter. But like I said, this wasn't the last one. Then we had another one in July, June, 30th of June, 2020. But there was a full moon lunar eclipse in Capricorn on the 5th of July, 2020. And at this time, the nodes were already in Gemini and Sagittarius. The North Node was in Gemini. Gemini, we need to start seeking new information, looking at things differently. And at this stage, during this lunation on the 5th of July 2020, the eclipse, this was a full moon lunar eclipse in Capricorn, Pluto, Jupiter was closing to Pluto because they were all retrograde. Saturn was back in Capricorn, 29 degrees. Saturn, as the ruler of at the time full moon lunar eclipse of in Capricorn, Saturn was retrograde on 29 degrees, and Pluto, Jupiter, Jupiter was closing to Pluto. Saturn was new to Pluto. It was new phase, and this was all happening still in conjunction with the moon, because there was a 10-degree orb, not for Saturn, but because Saturn was conjunct Jupiter and Pluto, it's counted. This was all still happening in conjunction with this moon, even though the nodes were already in Gemini and Sagittarius. And Jupiter, retrograde in Capricorn, having a conjunction with Pluto, the number 2, and this is everybody is retrograde. Everybody is reevaluating, like, okay, so what does this mean for us? If this story is now desolate, it's obsolete, it doesn't work anymore, then what does this mean? Well, North Node is already in Gemini. Mercury was in Cancer, interestingly enough, because before the North Node was in Cancer, right? And Venus was still in Gemini. Mars at this stage was already in Aries. New direction, new beginning. We have to reevaluate and think about things differently. And the last conjunction between Pluto and Jupiter of the 3, so the most recent one to now, was November 12, 2020, and then on November 15, 2020, we had a new moon in Scorpio. So, ruled by Pluto, about self-empowerment, disempowerment. So last conjunction happened on the 12th of November 2020, and at that time, Jupiter was still closing to Saturn. Saturn was still in Aquarius. Now everybody is direct, and Jupiter was in a new phase conjunction to Pluto at the time of the new moon in Scorpio. Mars was still in Aries, because Mars must have had retrograde in the meanwhile, and Venus was in Libra, and Mercury as the ruler of currently of Jupiter. Mercury at the time was in Scorpio. So yeah, how do we empower ourselves? So this is just a side note, because of course everything is connected to everything. So we can see how all these cycles, they are not happening in isolation with some, with the past, like this all, like we were talking previously, with this other conjunction, Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, and the nodes, and all of this, this all is cycles within cycles within cycles. But now Mars, as the ruler of the North Node, is in a new phase conjunction. Mars is in a new phase conjunction with Chiron, it's saying we need to go ahead, even if we're afraid, even if we're worried, right? And then we end in this week with Jupiter making a trine to Pluto. So since the conjunction in 2020, where Jupiter started a new phase with Pluto during the time of the Scorpio new moon, now everything moved on. Well, Saturn was still in Capricorn, obviously. Everything moved on, and now we have in the trine. The trine, the first trine is like a quality of Leo, which is about self-actualization, about purpose, about creativity. So this is again telling us that the way we're going to find this new direction, create this new story, is not from someone else, is not following someone else, is not copying someone else, is not reliving the story of the past, but actually it's about authenticity. It's about individuation. It's about we creating new, we're going ahead, we're creating new. Moon is in the sun is in the sign of Gemini. So it's about the choice. It's about tapping into yourself and allowing different versions of yourself that coexist at the same time to express themselves, because we are not just one singular being having a singular experience. It's all this amalgamation of everything that came before, and with all these planets transiting through the sign of Gemini and making a trine to Pluto retrograde is helping us to recalibrate to that energy, to start integrating that energy of understanding that technically in a, the bottom line and in the simplest way to identify all of this is everything you were ever told before is not necessarily truth, So it's literally saying that, well, we're going to discover ourselves and life and our approach to life and how we experience in this reality here on planet Earth in a very different way. Right? So this is literally what it's all doing, what is it all saying. And also, like I said, after the Jupiter trine to Pluto, Mercury is making a sextile to Neptune. So it's all about this: trust your spirit, trust your higher self, trust your higher guidance. And then we're going to start the next week, the week after, which is going to be few days before the new moon in Gemini, with Mercury moving into the sign of Gemini. So this is where things will really start becoming interesting. because by this stage, of course, Mercury is in a new phase with Uranus himself. So, our brain is being stretched even further to help us accommodate this energy of the Pluto retrograde that is being trined by everything passing on through Gemini. And this is supporting us because this is the evolution. This is where we're going. We don't have to like it. We don't even have to agree with it, but this is what it is. So we have a choice to decide, okay, how do you want to experience this new energy? It's up to you. But the energy is here. We cannot go like, okay, go back where you come from, because we don't like this energy. We want to go back to 1500. Like, yeah, there is an aspect of us that exists still at that time and age, but this aspect of us that is experienced in reality now and here and now in 2024 has to evolve and adjust to the energies that we are interacting with at the moment, because this is what we came for. This is what we all were born to experience, because nobody is here by force or by accident. So yeah, so this is technically it. So this is the week, and then like I said, we start the one after with Mercury moving into Gemini, and both Sun and Venus making a sextile to North Node, and then Sun and Venus are going to have a conjunction right before the new moon in Gemini. But like I said, that's for another conversation. So yeah, so anyway, guys, so in a nutshell, literally, we can see how, especially from the time of the eclipses, of course, because that's when this new energy really kicked off, especially 4/4 portal, when we had the Sun conjunct the North Node, and now we're going to have the first sextile, which, of course, because it's Sun, becomes the closing sextile, which is, the Aquarius flavor, what are we liberating ourselves from. But especially now, during this Taurus season, when we had all these Jupiter and Uranus conjunction, and then Venus Uranus conjunction, and then Jupiter Venus conjunction, and now Venus moved into Gemini and Jupiter moved into Gemini, and everybody's making trine to Pluto, and this is like really stepping into this different timeline. We are stepping into the different timelines, because the timeline of past Taurus, the Taurus in the way we defined it previously, which was just this attachment to these things that we could see before and we could identify with before because they helped us to survive. This is changing. Now it's saying, no, we're not going to just rely on these things outside of us to make us survive, because this is no longer in alignment, because South Node is in Libra, but we have to find it within and then connect with the external environment from this different space, from this self-empowered place. So now, being in this Gemini season with all these activations between Pluto and personal planet from the sign of Gemini, this is supported us. I mean, like I said, it doesn't necessarily feel comfortable, or it doesn't necessarily feel like, oh yeah, I'm having the best time of my life, but it is supporting the evolution. So the choice is, we can either go with it, flow with it, and use these energies, manipulate this energy to our advantage to have the best ride of our life, or we can try to resist those energies and then be still stuck in this trauma of the past, this Taurus, Uranus in Taurus, that is, going to keep fracturing us until we face it. We face it because, like I said, no child is afraid of the unknown, because children are excited about the adventures, about new experiences, about trying something different. Is the ego that is making us feel afraid based on the past experience. It's not the new experience, because we don't know what is the new experience. We haven't had it yet. It's the database of the past, which is projected into the future, and that's what makes us feel afraid. So with all these Aries, like Mars still being in the sign of Aries, and now in a new phase conjunction with North Node, and by the end of next week in a new phase conjunction also with Chiron, Mars is pushing us to, to be brave and courageous, to just go for it anyway. And with this Gemini, that's also telling us that, well, you can decide whatever you want the adventure to be. It's up to you. We just know that it's not going to be what it was before, because Mercury already conjuncted Uranus. It's saying we cannot go back into the box. Once you know, you cannot unknow. Once you awake, you cannot go back to sleep. So this is it. This is the evolution. This is the passage. This is the path But because it is a Gemini season and it is a mutable sign, nothing is set in a stone, nothing is fully decided. There is no exact definition of what this is and what is it going to look like and what is it going to be for everyone, because it's about the timeline you choose for yourself. But like I said, with each next week and next lunation, it's just unveiling to us, it's just taking us further on this journey. But there is no end. There is no like, okay, now this is where we're going and this is going to be the end and that's it. No, this is just the continuum. This is continuation of our passages of growth and of our evolutionary path. And now we are opening up to our multidimensionality, so we understanding that actually we have more choices than we ever thought possible, that we are much more than this one single-handed identity, like it was with the first conjunction between Pluto and Jupiter when the nodes were still in the sign of Cancer and Capricorn, and the North Node was in Cancer, which was saying that no, it's time to free ourselves from being because obviously the sun and the moon were both square in the nodes, and it's time to free ourselves from these old identities that were being projected onto us by the old reality that we were experiencing and by the someone else, right? Because like I said, during the first time that Jupiter made a conjunction to Pluto at this April 8th 2020, which was this, actually it was the April 5th, yeah, I'm getting it confused because it's the lunation that was the 8th, yeah, April 5th 2020, and then there was the full moon in Libra on April 8th. The nodes were, well, they were technically not being squared, okay? They were not being squared by the sun and the moon. Actually, the nodes were being squared exactly by Chiron. If we want to be exact, the nodes at the time were being squared by Chiron. So, and Chiron was pointing to the south node at the time still in Capricorn, and Saturn was in Aquarius in a new phase to Pluto, but Jupiter was close into it. So anyway, so this was telling us that this story is outdated. This story is preventing us from being brave and courageous to step into this new direction and feeling afraid because of the projection of the old story from the external authority, from the old structure of matrix, from someone else, right? But because the North Node was in the sign of Cancer and the moon was in Libra, and that's what was being squared by this Pluto Jupiter, that created the tension. So we can all go back to 2020, April 2020, and just generally the entire 2020, and we all remember what happened that year, right? And this is what it was, because Saturn already was in the sign of Aquarius, even though for the next two conjunction between Pluto and Jupiter, Saturn was back in the sign of Capricorn. But for the first one, Saturn was on 1 degrees of Aquarius, right? So that takes you back to this Uranus in Taurus. So this 2020 was literally the year where we started experiencing this huge pressure, this T-square between Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn conjunct, and the full moon in Libra, the T-square that is saying that we need to resolve this. We need to resolve this old story that comes from this external authority because it's outdated. Now, fast forward 4 years later, because we're 2024, I'm getting confused because of all these Mars being, closing cycles that began in 2022. But we are in 2024 now, and now all of this, that got seeded at the time, now Jupiter is trining Pluto because it's time. Because Jupiter trine to Pluto, that's the flavor of Leo, is the first trine between Aries and Leo. So it's saying that this is how we are stepping into our purpose under all this pressure that was, that we were under in 2020, and thereafter we are starting to step into our purpose. We are starting to wake up. We are starting to identify reality differently. We are starting to seek different information, and the more we learn, the more we discover about ourselves, the real essence of who we are, not that projected version of who we were being told to be. The more we are understanding that there is so much we don't know, that so much we weren't being told, there are so many lies, there are so many half-truths, and the real truth only lies within you because it's different for different people, because Sagittarius is a mutable sign, and especially now with Jupiter being in the sign of being in a sign of Gemini, we will see even more craziness with regards to what is the truth, because there is not one version of it. Truth is multidimensional because it's a subjective perception of reality, unless it's the universe truth, right? which is the universal laws. But everything else is like you create your truth, you create your reality, because you are your creator. And for that, Taurus, you need to trust yourself, you need to believe in yourself. And once you do, because now Jupiter and Venus and everyone are in Gemini in a new phase to Uranus, also Mercury as of the 31st, Mercury is also in a new phase conjunction with Uranus. And this is the wisdom we take in with ourselves. We are here to go beyond just surviving and just slaving away to pay bills and stuff. Like, this is not what we were born for. But in order to liberate ourselves through these stories, from these stories and this trauma that is still living in our body, because this is what everybody that came before us experienced, this story, right, that made us feel unworthy and doubt ourselves and feel within this subconscious realm of these limiting belief systems, right, which are the old stories constructed by Matrix to make this game more exciting and more fun, right? Like, all of this is now changing, is now shifting. Neptune in Pisces, 29 degrees, making a sextile. It's like, no, it's time to step out of this. It's time to step into your purpose. It's time to discover who you really are, ready or not. And it's not going to be necessarily easy, but this is the only way, because like I said, the path to liberation, path to Aquarius, it's through Capricorn. So it's about the responsibility, right? So anyway, guys, once again, I hope that this makes sense. And this is the in-between. So this is the after effects of Sagittarius full moon, whatever got illuminated to us during the Sagittarius full moon, where we really becoming aware of these stories, of these beliefs, of these projections of others onto us, or us onto ourselves from the subconscious, that are now limiting. They are limiting us, and we need to decide what out of this is actually in alignment with who we are, what we want, what we value, and what isn't. And like, transmute this energy, transcend this limitation, because now we are in Gemini season, and that is the season of the choice. But like I said at the beginning, Jupiter will expand everything it touches. So whether that which Jupiter, find itself to be working with are limiting belief systems, it's going to be expanded to the point where we will be pushed to the wall and saying, I can't do this anymore. Something has to change. So whichever way Jupiter's going to do it, Jupiter is just going to expand, right? Jupiter is going to expand. So and this is the preparation now, this week in between the lunations. This is a preparation for the new moon in Gemini, with Mercury in Gemini under the influence of the first conjunction with Pluto, and under the influence of the conjunction with Uranus, and now under the influence of trine to Pluto, Mercury trine to Pluto, right, from the sign of Gemini. So this is all the energy that is preparing us for seeding this new frequency of multidimensionality, to embrace that this is the reality we will be experiencing from now on, which is not the same for everyone, because it's this myriad and unlimited amount of timelines that we can tap into and choose from, right? So life going forward is not going to be the same for everyone. There's going to be more and more these Mandela effects and deja vu effect, whatever kind of things, where people will go, that's not what I'm experiencing, that's not what I remember, because life is just about to get very interesting, like all these old Taurus and all these old Capricorn. This is now we going beyond that, because Uranus is in the Taurus and Neptune is in Pisces, and that's where Saturn is as well, and Pluto is just about to be done with Capricorn by November this year. So this reality is gonna be no more. But because we are in such early stages of this new reality that doesn't exist yet, we don't know what it's gonna look like or what it's gonna be, but everything's gonna change. Everything's gonna change. So when everything outside of us is changing and going crazy, the only place of stillness is within you. And this is how we're going to find the equilibrium. This is how we're going to find the balance. So anyway, guys, like I said, I'm just going into all different rabbit holes here in a good Gemini fashion, not being able to stick to one thing and follow a linear thread here. But this is my interpretation of what's going on here and what we're experiencing. And with this Chiron-Mars conjunction, and like I said, Mercury conjunct Uranus, and this is all under influence of the Sagittarius full moon illumination. there are very likely next week to be things coming up, whether it's individually, collectively, or whatever it is, things coming up that's going to be triggering, things coming up that are going to remind us of this topic that potentially got seeded in 2020 or, you know, a long time ago in the past, where we felt that we didn't have the agency, we didn't have the power of choice. And now that all might be coming up because we have to face it in order to let the ice thaw, right? So the water can keep moving, so we can move on with that. And this is the path to liberation through facing those things that are frozen in time. And, you know, we all were being passed on the button to take the responsibility for them, even though we might not be the ones that created them, because also we're sitting under trees that we didn't plant, many of them, right? So now it's our turn to plant the trees, plant the seeds for the future that we're not necessarily going to be experiencing the totality of, or not in this shape and form, but there will be some you know, version of us that's gonna be experiencing it. So anyway, guys, what we're gonna do now, because the time has run out from us, I'm going to pull a card from my brand new deck that was actually released yesterday, the Time Traveler's Oracle. And we're gonna see where we at with all these multidimensional timelines that we are experiencing. And then I have another deck that, you know, it's a little bit different, but we're gonna pull one card from there as well, Earth Power, which is about different places in the world, because I feel these two might speak very nicely to one another. So let's see. So Time Traveler's Oracle. Ooh, okay, I haven't even mixed an expansion card. The card 11, expansion. Okay, we keep it. So what else is there for us apart from the expansion? What else does universe wants us to know? Oops. Oh my god, these cards are really flying today. Okay, we just want one. Okay, there are too many flying, so I'm just gonna stick with that one. And at the end of the deck, at the bottom of the deck is actually card 1, Abundance, which is the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. So we are in a phase of expansion. Oops, I'm knocking everything off here. Phase of expansion. Planet Jupiter. Oh my god, now I understand why this card was like so eager. Like, okay, you know, I need to be seen, you know. And then at the bottom of the deck, because the no more cards wants to come out, so I'm just taking what's at the bottom, which is the Abundance. So this is what we're creating, the Gardens of the Babylon. But first we need to go through our own expansion and growth. You know, the universe is the oyster. Look at that, expansion. Okay, what this and that's interesting. 1 and 11, all these number ones, new beginnings, right? So okay, let's see what this Jupiter card wants to tell us. Messages from planet Jupiter. Today we are time traveling to the planet Jupiter. What a ride it is. As we land, we can feel our muscles strengthening and its strong gravity field. Even though Jupiter is physically uninhabitable by humans, well, that's just a story, because we know that everything is sentient. It's just about frequency. I'm sure there is something living on planet Jupiter, it's just not on a frequency to perceive it. But anyway, that's just my opinion. The mystic energy here is remarkable. You and I are both in Ave of Jupiter's 79 incredible moons. Everything feels so stunningly expansive, understandingly so, as this planet is 318 times as massive as our own planet. Jupiter is so large, it's visible to the naked eye from Earth, and the third brightest object in the night sky in our solar system. In Roman mythology, the god Jupiter, for whom the planet was named, was considered to be a sky god and king of gods. In Greek mythology, he was known as Zeus. In astrology, Jupiter is connected with principles of growth, expansion, healing, prosperity, good fortune, and miracles. And we agree we both can feel the energy of all these qualities in our time here. The time traveler's message: your life is expanding in profound and wondrous ways. Vitality and wide open opportunities are at hand. Focus on what you desire to increase in your life, and good fortune will follow. Timing is everything, and the time is now, so says the day. Anything and everything is possible. If there is anything in your life that you want to expand, this is time to nurture it. In your business life, this card is an indication that expansion will be successful. If you are considering a home renovation on an increase of in your social circle of friends, this is time to move forward. Abounding miracles are growing in your life. Good fortune, growth, expansion, healing, prosperity, and miracles awaits you. Activate this escalating power and activity by believing that everything is possible, and it is. Focus on your deepest dreams, and the energy behind this card will help activate them. So use the energy of Jupiter in Gemini to create what you want, because we have a choice. And then at the bottom was abundance, which is the card number 1, and that's the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Okay, so this is about traveling back into Babylon, but I'm just gonna read the time traveler's message. When you receive this card, know that fulfillment and prosperity are awakening in your life. Be grateful for what you already have, and even more will flow to you. The Creator desires that you prosper in all areas of your life. A windfall is coming. There are amazing opportunities around you, but you must be willing to nurture them. An outpouring of energy, finances, and even love are ahead. Believe that you deserve it, because you do. Whatever you focus on right now will grow in leaps and bounds, so take action in the direction of your dreams. Trust that your life is blossoming. Release feelings of fear and lack, which are only perceptions. This is a great time to make investments, purchase property, or make plans for things that you desire. Choose quality over economy. In the end, you will not regret it. This is an excellent time to be generous. Give deeply and fully without fear or loss. The more you give, the more you receive. The more you give with open heart, the more energy and life force flows back to you. So yeah, this is what's available. But we need to expand, ourselves to reach that frequency, because this already exists. The universe is abundant, unlimited. We just need to get to the frequency, right? Which is exactly the Jupiter in Gemini. Okay, let's just see about Earth power, which one, but I'm just going to pull a card because it explains a lot about the places and stuff, but I'm just going to read the keyword, see what, what we get with regards to this other deck, because I think they complement each other quite well. Okay, Earth power. What card do we have? Okay, there is a card. Magdalena Bay Baya. I birth new concepts and ideas easily. I am full of flowfulness in every part of my life. Grace permeates my being. And look, there is a whale. There is a whale, Sirius, and a full moon, and an ocean, abundance, and all this beautiful sky. Sky is the limit, universe is the limit. The abundance is unlimited, and these are divine being, the whales. Okay, and at the bottom of the deck we have Machu Picchu. I am nourished in both body and mind. I can see my part in the wider universe. I reap what I sow. That's again Jupiter, right? Okay, let's see if there are any other keywords. Okay, Magdalena Bay, I birth new concepts and ideas easily. I am full of flowfulness in every part of my life. Grace permeates my being, and key energies are playfulness, perspective, flowfulness, and grace. So I feel with Gemini, because Gemini is very light energy, they can say, they say Gemini is a trickster, right? But Gemini is very light. It's like the Joker, it's like fun and stuff. So it's like I feel it's not to take things too serious, like just so seriously, because at the end of the day we all came from source and we all return to source, and we're here to experience what this beautiful Gaia has to offer to us. It's just a fleeting moment, this life. So let's just enjoy it the best we can, all this beauty that is available to us. And then with the Machu Picchu, I am nourished in both body and mind. I can see my part in the wider universe. I reap what I sow. And key energies are solar, cycles, harvest, universal power, rest, and observation. right? Look again, another big full moon, and all these steps, we are on these steps to get in where we want to go, which is the enlightenment. All these moons, you know, all this beauty of the planet that is available to us, an opportunity to tap into this bounty of richness, but yeah, you know, through our own growth, you know, again, the abundance, you know, that's another one, very similar, right? Very similar. And there is also this mirror image, you know, the different realities, different timelines we are tapping into. Universe is abundant, is unlimited. Okay, let's just pull the major arcana and we close with that because the time is running. Okay, major arcana for the week after, the week in between the two lunations. You know, what got illuminated with the Sagittarius full moon. Chariot. Chariot represents the moon, you know, we are on a fast track, but let's, you know, we're going fast forward, but we need to be able to manage our emotions, be in charge, you know. This is about, it's also a very positive card, and it's also a card number 7, which is the Neptune number, which is about what holds a meaning, seeking a deeper meaning, but it's all this light, and, you know, the yellow solar plexus again. He's got also, and he's got the triple moon goddess here, the cycles, understanding our emotions, and we are on a fast track of evolution, but we also need to be able to ground it. Oh, and I can see at the bottom of the deck we have our favorite, our very often coming out card of strength, which is interesting because this one jumped out and this one was at the bottom, and of course there is a sequence, you know, 7 and 8, and yeah. Again, the unlimited potential, taming the beast within, the purity, allowing the higher self to assist us, you know, to explore these horizons of, you know, of Gaia, of planet Earth that we came here to explore. So, yeah, you know, both very positive cards. So we are connecting with the true divinity of who we are at the moment through having all these different experiences that are giving us the opportunity to become stronger and resilient and you know, grounded, because it's the red color, so there's the base chakra, all the yellow solar plexus, and the black and white, the polarity of our, you know, incarnation here. You know, everything has got the positives and, you know, the challenging moment, but at the end of the day it's up to us and our inner trust, you know, the moon, our inner world. How do we feel within? And that's how we're going to be perceiving and experiencing that, which is again connected to the Jupiter, right? That which we experience and which we manifest depends on what do we believe and what are we thinking, because, you know, at the beginning of everything is a thought. This, you know, is one of the hermetic principles. So anyway, guys, I'm gonna leave it at that. I hope that there was some value in this. I'm wishing you all a wonderful weekend, and I'll speak to you again soon. Much love, everyone. Bye for now.